ready to approve our budget on budget adoption slated for Thursday. I don't have anything to add on anything you guys do.
On the budget?
On the budget, yeah.
Yes, I'm concerned that we're still looking at having to have this increase in taxes, and I don't think it's warranted. I said it before, and I don't get any discussion from anybody on where or why. When I bring up suggestions, it's dismissed as, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or we can't do that, or it cuts too low. And I'm telling you that we set on those, like the landfill host fund fee that's given to us to the tune of $450,000 every year. Why can't we take out of that fund balance that's sitting there of the tune of $200,000? Why can't we make less of an ARP payment of $200,000? I'm not saying eliminate the whole ARP payment. I'm saying $200,000 less, and that we're getting a reimbursement on the voting system to the tune of about $200,000. That's $600,000 right there, which will cover that $3 million increase. Now that's just three areas. There's other fund balances that we can tap into. For instance, the health surplus fund. What do we need to set on a health surplus fund for? I mean, and what we're doing is, please don't put this tax increase on the backs and have it be a burden to the taxpayers, and especially the elderly in this county. We can do this. We have the professional ability, and I'm sure the wherewithal to properly manage this budget next year with the new Board of Commissioners we have. They're talented, and they should and could be able to do this, not just simply right along with a simple let's raise the taxes to cover the budget, to fill the holes. And I just don't hear anything. It was all from the beginning of the thing, oh, well, that's just the way it is. And all that, who cares if it's $30 a year for a $100,000 property for people? It's a tax increase that's not warranted, and I'm not going to support it, and I said that before. And we don't take everything that I have brought up, it's like it's dismissed as we don't want to talk about that, Paul. We don't want to, that's going to bring fund balances down too low and all that. What do we have fund balances for if not to use for this type of a situation? Instead of just simply passing it on to the taxpayer and say, let the taxpayers fill the gap. We're done. There's the budget. Move on. We're getting down to the 11th hour here on all this stuff, and it's just, nobody cares. Let's just, my whole professional career of being a controller or a CFO has always been the ability to work on a budget, drive it down, drive it down, drive it down. We just met with all the departments and said, well, last year you spent $1,000 in that line, so okay, let's make it 1,000 again. Let's make it 1,000 again. We didn't go back and say, let's just eliminate all those discretionary items, all those supplies and things like that. We should just knock that down 5%. It's not a big number in total compared to these fund balances, but you have to do it. You just reduce it by 5%, and that's no big deal. Any professional business person will tell you that. Any budget can be reduced 5%. Pete, you know that being at PennDOT, how you used to work on budgets, now you drive it down. Yeah. Not just, oh, you spent 1,000 last year, okay, you want 1,000 this year, fine, we'll pencil that in. Nobody went back to say we're going to reduce all those now by 5%. And now we're at the 11th hour here, and I got to sit and stew and think about this all weekend about this. Just not right to the taxpayers to do this to them. We've got a good professional board now that has the ability to manage that budget and actually do better in next year with a reduced budget amount.
Okay. What were some of your specific points? I appreciate your overall comment, okay? All right. But the devil's in the details. You said reduce the ARC payment by $200,000.
That's just one example.
That was one.
Okay, take it out of another host fund and only reduce it by $100,000.
Paul, we're down to specific numbers now. We have to cover a deficit of $600,000 if we want to maintain the fund balance. So your argument is, first of all, every one of those points you made about what each department should do, you had that opportunity during the budget hearings. I don't recall how those conversations went, but I don't remember hearing these pleas at that time.
The whole,
You had an opportunity to have
No,
this
no.
conversation.
no, the whole process was, let's hear the department heads say what they want.
What they need.
submitted it. And then we just, okay,
Well,
we
I
questioned
disagree
it.
with you. I disagree with you.
When did we say, you come back with 5% less?
No, we did not.
We
do
did
that.
not, did
In
we?
those meetings, line item by line item, and I'll go get, I didn't bring my book to the meeting. Line item by line item, we questioned each line item and asked specific questions as to justifications for that line item. My notes are right on each page. Now, some of the line items are very clear. I have a copier lease. My copier lease is for 5 years. It costs this much money. Those things weren't discussed. But there are other things that we have cut. There were other things that they asked for that we said, do you really need that? We had those conversations line item by line item. Now, what we did not do is what you're suggesting. Tell everybody to figure out a way to cut 5%. When you take personnel out of that, are you agreeing that you have to take personnel out of that?
Yes, you do.
All right, because you can't, unless
You gotta live up to your contractual obligation,
Right.
which is 2.5%.
and you gotta pay your fixed costs. You gotta pay your electric bill, your heat bill, your light bill. Okay, the 5% that you're talking about, to me, would come out of those things that are not required fixed costs. Is that right?
Correct.
And I suppose that as a commissioner, you would have had the right to go back to those individuals and say that if you wanted to. I don't know.
What do you think attention I would get with that? They'd say, where's your other two commissioners on this? They supported me on what I said. Why are you coming to me, Conklin, and want me to reduce 5%? They tell me to go back to third floor and forget about talking to me. It's very frustrating.
Let me just say, I mean, because I know we're going to have to put restraints on this discussion because I am not sitting here until 11 o'clock. Okay. We did scrutinize each line item. In my opinion, Jeff can confirm or not confirm, but I do believe that as we went through each line item in the budget hearings, do you need that? What is that for? Do you need that? Why can we do this? That process occurred. That's what the budget process is about. So, but to go back and just say, hey,
how many times
to find 5% more? I'm not going to.
How many times was it mentioned that, okay, that's the way they want that, okay. We never said we're going to go back now. We always said let's see what it looks like at the end of the budget process, which the final number is the revenues that come in, right? And that should be the top number actually to start with. But we always wait to see what the revenues are. Oh, then we're going to sit there and wring our hands. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we don't tell those people up front because we don't know until we get the revenue number how short we're going to be, or how much of a cushion we're going to have until that revenue. Oh, well, then when that come in, oh, we're short. So nobody went back and said, okay, we're cutting all these line items by 5%.
Did you do any anticipated numbers? I know it would be some work, and we could ask our staff to do that. With that 5% budget,
it doesn't add up to a huge number like these fund balances here. Okay. And that's what I was told, and that's why I was passed off as Conklin is insignificant because he's talking a number that maybe generates $100,000. Well, whoop-de-doo is what, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to help Conklin get any of that stuff. Oh, no. Because the big numbers are the host agreement, the ARC payment, and we got a big chunk of money coming from the voting machine reimbursement. And there's other fund balances I didn't even talk about here.
Paul, I think we incorporated the anticipated funds from the voting machine money into that budget. That was already added.
Okay, well then let's look at the health surplus fund then to get that. But how about any of those other funds? And how about the contingency that we say that is an estimated guideline that should be followed? Okay, let's do that because somebody somewhere in the lords of the budgetary process determined that 10% should be. Well, why not? Why don't we make ours 9% or 8%? Why does it have to be 10% is the number we have? Because it all comes down to it's going to be burdened by the taxpayers in this county just to fill that instead of being creative and do our jobs and find where that's going to be.
It doesn't have to be 10%. Baker Tilly recommends 17%, Paul, we fall short of their recommendation.
That's the first time I ever saw that number. And of course they're gonna recommend 17. And the health of our pension plan, and every time we have our retirement board meeting, we're told how healthy we are. That very few counties are funded at the percentage we are. So why can't we just back off a little bit this year and see where that goes for the next year? It's just too easy to say, pass it on to the taxpayer and fill that gap.
Okay. The medical surplus fund has been used to try to balance the budget for the last 2 years, and this year we plan on reusing money from the medical surplus fund. Just to be aware that that medical surplus fund is also used to fund our HRA, correct, Jan?
Yes.
And I think these aren't the latest numbers, but I think our projected balance in that would be $754,307.
That's a big number.
Yeah. Now, be aware, I don't know what we spend. I think we spend approximately 220,000 a year on that health surplus fund. And we used to get revenue from our old insurance policy to fund that. When we switched to, you were here when we switched to insurance, to Delaware Valley, but you agreed to that transition.
Yeah.
We knew that new revenue source was going to cease.
Well, it made sense. It was cheaper to go this way.
It was cheaper, so we made the right decision to switch to insurance companies. But just so you know that if you don't retain that fund, then you're gonna have to replenish that money at some point. And you can drain it to zero, and then that year, you're gonna have to find $250,000. So I don't know what you're suggesting, but that's one option I think I hear you suggesting. Drain that fund down so that later on somebody can fund that.
A part of it,
but it's
and
gonna
the
take.
new board, let the new board be creative and let them put their professionalism behind it.
We'll simply let the new board do the tax increase if they feel.
If there would even need one, you don't even know there would be one.
At some point in time.
What crystal ball do you have, Pete, that shows me that?
The cycles, 8 years of watching budgets, 8 years of watching budgets and how they work. Now, there are some things that we are going to continue to try to do even before we leave office, try to minimize that impact. But
we just had a report the other day from the retirement fund that the current earnings is 18%. And do you see any, all of a sudden, short-term decline in that? Isn't that number going to remain pretty high?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, somebody knew where the stock market was going.
Well, yeah, you had a crystal ball here just a minute ago, and you said we're going to have a tax increase this year.
The trends over time to inflation and normal increases in operation that impact inflation, cost of living, raises that you do give employees, whatever, over time, and eventually, now there's just some things that we can do to alleviate that for the next board. And I don't know if they want to talk about this.
I just want to say, I know I won't be.
Just a second.
I know I won't be invited to any more of the holiday parties because of my disagreement with you folks. But that's just the way it is. I need to say this and do this, and I don't feel right about it. Just simply passing this on to the taxpayer because we can.
Okay. Well, I think we had opportunities within each budget hearing to reduce some things, and more than once I heard you make suggestions to department heads on things that you wish you were asking them that they didn't need some more things. So yeah, I'm done. Paul, Jeff, did you want to say anything about Paul's comments? Okay. Do you new board have any comments on what he's saying? I'll just sum it up that we don't want to leave a fund balance that's lower than what's recommended or that's comparable. I do see some things on the horizon that actually there's a couple of things we're going to still continue to try to do with the short time we have left by the end of December. But they're not significant enough to alleviate the proposed tax increase. They're not the amount of money that they. And there are things that may benefit us that will take time. Things that that we might do today that will save you money next year. We want to save you money next year. So we're going to make some decisions to make your budget easier to balance if we go down this road. That's my opinion. We don't have to do those things, however. We don't have to do those things. And we can leave the fund balance at a lesser amount, as Paul's suggesting, and reduce the ARC payment. ARC payments, if you don't pay the recommended amount of the actuary, over time, if you don't make those payments, you're going to have to play catch up at some point. You got to figure out how to catch that gap up someday. That's like kick the can and we'll let, and that's been done. That was done to us by previous boards. So that when we came, and this is what I remember, Paul, and explained this to you, when Jeff and I first came into office, the things that you suggested were done by the previous board in their last year, and they didn't raise taxes. We had to raise taxes then in our first year to balance that budget because of those low fund balances. We could perhaps do the same. We could do the same. And maybe, and wait, I'm telling you, and maybe then some of these things that Angela and Jeff and Paul or Miles are going to do next year, they'll find ways to make up that gap so that by the end of next year, maybe they won't have to raise taxes. Maybe they will fall year, I don't know. So, I don't have anything else to say. If you don't, Jeff, then who else wants to talk next? And we'll keep our discussion with a fairly reasonable amount of time. Go ahead, sir.
You know, Pete, that isn't easy for me to do, but since you asked me nice, I will. Well, humor, I'm trying to lighten the load.
Within a reasonable amount of time.
I'll do that, sir. Yeah. I didn't wear my hearing protection, so if I can get a little closer, that'll be helpful. I think your budget's somewhere around $40 million. I don't have the papers in front of me, but by and large, it's around $40 million. So to say, and I trust you won't think me rude, I don't mean to be rude, Pete, to say, gee, we want to cut this off by 11 a.m. or we don't want to discuss it, we've done all that, I find that to be a little faulty. It is a $40 million budget, and I think all the discussion that anyone wants to give to it is warranted. I disagree, where all three of you seem to indicate that we need to take personnel out of the equation. I'm in disagreement with that.